What's up, guys? Welcome back to my live stream where we work on our game engines and I answer some game engine developments that you may have as a beginner. If you are new to my channel and to this live stream, my name is Jose Serrano, and guess what I do? I develop game engines as a hobby, and I like to go on YouTube, upload videos, and do live streams where I share with you my journey as I develop a game engine and also answer some questions that you may have as an indie game engine developer. So welcome, guys, for joining the live stream. Before I begin, I would like to invite you to join my Discord server. Where we have a community of indie game engine developers, each of us developing our own game engines. We like to share tips, knowledge. So if you are new or you have experience developing game engines, feel free to join us. We would like to, for you to help other people develop, their game engines. And if you are new, feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I'm going to provide that link to my Discord server in the description below. So again, feel free to introduce yourself, tell us about your game engine, and ask whatever question you may have on engine development. And if you are joining the live stream and you want to, if you have any questions on game engine development, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll try to answer them as throughout the whole live stream. So what are we gonna do today? So if you are new to my channel, what I like to do is I like to answer questions on game engine development. I usually have like around 5 questions that I like to answer. And we do a little bit of coding here and there, but mainly the whole live stream is based around your questions that you may have regarding game engine development. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's see. Let me show you what I currently have in my game engine. I'm sure you want to know how is that is going. If you are new, again, to my channel, if you don't know who I am, I have been developing game engine for about 8 years now, and my game engine is the Untold engine. It's a 3D game engine developed using C++ and the Metal API. It is mainly targeted for Apple devices, and let me share with you what I have been working on. So for the past, I guess, 3 weeks almost, I've been going on YouTube doing some live streams, and I've been working on implementing a scene editor for my game engine. Now that is completed as of now, right? For now, right? I'm not going to be adding more features to the scene editor. I used ImGUI to help me do that. ImGUI is a library that provides the widgets for your UI basically. And aside from that, before I started implementing the scene editor, I was also integrating a scripting language for my game engine. And the scripting language that I decided to use is called the Gravity. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But first of all, let me share with you what I currently have, all right? So let me bring up the engine. This is the engine. This is basically the IDE Xcode. That's what you use when you are developing with Apple devices. So let me run it, and you are going to see the game engine in action. All right, so this is basically the scene, the game scene, right? And you can see all of the widgets for the GUI, all of that. All of this that you see here, I used ImGUI. All right, ImGUI is a library that you can use to implement all of these UIs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to load up a game scene that I had previously. This is a feature that I added. So let me go to my download folder. And now let me look for my scene. That's my scene file. Now you're gonna see all of the entities loading into the scene. Now give me 1 second. Let me make sure that I am actually sharing my screen, because last time what happened was that I was talking, but I was not sharing my screen. And I realized that I wasn't sharing my screen like 10 minutes into the live stream. All right, so what I added last week was I added Gizmo. Basically, it's the little tool that allows you to select and translate and rotate a character, an entity. So that's what I added. I use a library as well for that. And so now you can select the entities, stuff like that. And if you want to know more how I actually how I'm able to um, pick right an entity with my with a mouse, I basically used ray casting, and the previous live streams talks about that, so you may want to check them out. I give a brief tutorial, not a tutorial, but a brief explanation on how that works and how you can implement it, and also some resources that may help you. So check those live streams out. They're very helpful. All right, so this is what I worked on. It's all good. It works out fine. Now, just so you know, I developed my game engine from scratch, completely from scratch. I started developing the mathematics engine. Once that was completed, I focused on developing the rendering engine. Then I focused on doing the physics and collision detection system. That took me about 3 years to complete. That was the basic framework of my game engine, right? But after that, right, you need to implement more systems into your game engine. You need to implement a camera system that will allow you to select the first person camera perspectives to third person, to a basic camera, etc. You also need to. I also implemented a particle system. I have done a lot of work. I've been working on it for 8 years now. So most of my game engine was built from scratch, but now I decided not to develop my own GUI. Right? I decided to instead use an external library such as MGUI to do that, and that's what I'm doing. The gizmo that you see here, that is something that I did not implement. I also use a library that works very well with MGUI, right? And the reason why I decided not to focus on spending time doing the GUI is because my main focus is to build a very a stable and a very efficient game engine. So I'm more focusing on the core of the game engine than this all of this the GUI, etc. And to be honest with you, I'm not really passionate about GUIs, so I actually debated for a long time whether I should do a GUI or not. But it works, so it's all good. So this is what I've done. So now what I want to do is I want to take some time and fix some issues that I have with the scripting language that I've been using. Again, the scripting language, I did not write a scripting language, obviously, that would be insane. I use a third-party open source scripting language called Gravity. Now, Gravity is a insanely amazing scripting language. I know that many people will suggest game engines developers to use Lua or stuff like that. But let me tell you something. Gravity is actually very cool, especially if you are planning to use, especially if you're planning to develop a game engine for Apple devices. Why? Well, the reason why that is because hold on, let me actually get the link for Gravity, so that way you can actually see it. And let me bring this over here. All right, so this is the Gravity website. It's an embeddable programming language. It's a scripting language that you can use. It looks very, very similar to Swift. So if you are an Apple developer and you use Swift, Gravity will be very easy to pick up. Actually, you don't even need to know Swift. This language is amazing because it's so simple to use and to learn and to understand. So after taking a couple of weeks and researching other scripting languages such as Lua, and I don't remember what was the other language that I researched. There were a few. I decided to go ahead and integrate Gravity into my game engine. Why? Well, basically, when I was trying to integrate Lua into my scripting language into my game engine, I realized that the whole C++ binding that you have to use with Lua was a nightmare. I did try to use the library Saw, which provides a C++ binding with Lua. It was good, but honestly, I just felt the whole indexing array that they have implemented in Lua, and if you have ever used Lua, you would understand. You would know what I mean. Just made everything so complicated, and honestly, the binding was just insane. So I decided, you know, I'm not gonna waste time. So then I, started playing around with Gravity, and I'm gonna tell you something. To integrate Gravity into your game engine is so simple, so freaking simple. It didn't take me that long to integrate it. And the other cool thing is that the maintainer of this Gravity of this language, Marco Bambini, is a really cool guy. He's very responsive, right? If you have a question, he will respond to you by the next day. So that's really cool, and that is something that you need to look into when you are selecting an open source, right? You want to know, you want to be certain that the maintainer is he's very helpful and that he responds promptly, and that he is up to date with all the maintenance of his project. You do not want to use an open source project that hasn't been updated for like 5 years, right? Because that's a bad sign usually, in my opinion. All right. So, well, again, going back to what we are working on right now, we are going to make sure to fix some issues with Gravity. All right. So let me run this so you know how this works, and so we can get going. But first, let me answer the first question related to game engine development. This is something I usually get a lot. People ask me this question often, and it's understandable why they ask, right? They ask, should I develop my game engine using OpenGL, Metal, or Vulkan? The answer is, I would not use OpenGL right now, right? If you are targeting a Windows machine, I would not use OpenGL. I would go ahead and use Vulkan. Why? Well, because Vulkan is the next OpenGL generation, right? And so the industry is going that way, right? However, if you do not know computer graphics, and you want to use Vulkan, the problem with what I've seen is that there may not be enough resources online that will teach you computer graphics using Vulkan. But they may the sites that actually provide resources are using OpenGL, and it is understandable, right? Those websites have been around for a long time, and Vulkan was not around back then. But so even though you may want to target Vulkan, the resources out there, the bulk of the resources are in OpenGL, right? So the issues here, you may have to learn OpenGL a bit, and then once you get the hang of computer graphics, you should be able to go to Vulkan. Now let me tell you my story, right? On all this. When I started developing my game engine, I started out with OpenGL because Metal was not around. All right. So I learned computer graphics in OpenGL, stuff like that. Now, when Metal came about, right, I was able to port my game engine from OpenGL to Metal because I took the time to learn the theory of computer graphics. And that was the key that allowed me to port my game engine very easily in a very short time, because I didn't have to rely on OpenGL API. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I needed to do in the pipeline, in the rendering pipeline. All what I needed to do is review the Metal API. So what I recommend people to do is to take that time to actually go ahead and learn computer graphics theory. And a really good book that helped me is this book that I'm going to share with you. If you go to my website, heroserrano.com, and you click on the link books, I have, I share with you all of the books that I use to develop my game engine. And the first section here talks about the books to get started. Now, this book right here computer graphics shaders theory and practice was really helpful in teaching me about the computer graphics theory. So I recommend you to read this book. You do not have to read all of every single chapter. I believe you read up to the first, gosh, I don't remember, but the first 5 to 6 chapters, you should be, you will get a really good understanding on computer graphics, and that's the key. So, how should you start, right? Developing your game engine using OpenGL, Meta, or Vulkan. I would take the time to learn computer graphics theory first, because once you know computer graphics, the theory itself, you think an API would be, very simple. You would understand. You will know exactly what to look for in each of these different APIs in order to render your entities. So the key is to learn computer graphics theory first. All right. So that's the first question. All right, so let's run this and let's see what the heck is going on with this. All right, I did notice some issues that I was having with this. So just for the heck of it, let me load up my scene again so that this doesn't look, dead. All right, so you can see all of the assets, and you can see here the entities is my scene graph. All right, so I'm gonna bring up this file, and I'm here. All right, my script 2, right? And what I basically have here, I have these different functions that are part of the of gravity, right? So what I'm gonna do here. Under that init, so you can see the message that will be shown here. And what I'm going to do var logger, and I'm going to create this instance. All of this, let me run this, and then I'm going to explain to you how the scripting language works with a game engine. All right, so let me do this logger log, and then I'm gonna say hello world. All right, and then I'm gonna save this, and then so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this. I'm gonna go and open my script, right? And my script is my script 2, right? I'm gonna load this, and now you're gonna see here a syntax an error that showed up, right? So let's see, there is a problem, and yep, that's not something that needs to be happening. Okay, so let me go back here. Now if I load this, we shouldn't see that problem. Now if I play this, right, when I click play, I'm basically running my whole game engine. I'm executing everything, right? What we should see is this message, hello world. All right, that's what we should see. And there it is. We see hello world along with some other errors that I will fix in another live stream, but they're not really, those are basically messages that I forgot to delete. So we have a hello world. So we know that works. Right now, let me do this again. But now what I'm gonna do, let me pause this. Pause, and then let me actually bring this logger over here, and then I'm gonna do this, and what we should see here is, let me write this, updating the world. All right, so let me load this again, and now it says loading, and then I'm gonna play this again, and guess what? The update method is not being run at all. This should be running. So that's something that we need to fix. We need to fix the update method. Fix. Oh, let me actually write it here. New file. So things to do. Fix the update method in Gravity. All right. So when you are integrating your scripting language into your game engine, what you need to do is this. you need to implement a bridge, right? And that bridge basically is the glue that will, no, it's not a glue. It's, how can I explain this? In your game engine, you have your own API, correct? Now you want people to be able to use that API through a scripting language, right? The scripting language does not know anything about your game engine API. So what you need to do is you need to bind those functions or those methods, right, with functions that will be used during the scripting language and your game engine. So basically, you need to, you know, implement a binding between your game engine and the scripting language, right? So that is something that you have to do. And for example, if I show you here, I can show you some of the different methods that I have bound or classes that I bound. For example, I bound all of my vector 3m you know, classes, right? Or methods, right? So now something that you can do, and I know this may seem confusing because it is in the beginning, but you need to create that bridge, that translator. There you go, that a translator that will translate the method from your scripting language to your game engine. So that way, whenever you call logger.log, the scripting language should know, hey, this method is linked to this particular method in your game engine, so that method will be executed, and then everything goes on. So that's something that you need to do when you integrate a scripting language. So it will require a lot of maintenance from your part, because you have to basically expose all of those APIs that you want your users to use. So keep that in mind. All right, so that's the first thing that we need to do, fix the update method. The other thing that I want to do, I think I want to do this first actually. I want to, when I click on and you know, when you go open and then this, and you say load script, when I click here, I'm basically just loading the script, but I'm not initializing anything. And I want to change the workflow of how you create a game. So what I want to do is that whenever you click on load script, you go directly and you call the init function or method, right? But then when you click on play, right, that's when you will basically execute all of this, the update method, and that's going to keep running, right? So that's what I want to do, and I want to do that first. All right. Again, if you are new to my channel, I'm Jero Serrano, and I develop game engines. I share everything that I know about game engine development with you. So if you have any questions related to game engine development, feel free to ask anything in the chat. I'll be happy to answer it. Also, if you want to join a community of indie game engine developers, feel free to join my Discord server. The link to the server is in the description below. Right now, we have about 530 members, each of us developing our own game engines. We like to give updates on our individual game engines. We tend to ask questions, provide tips, share knowledge, etc. So again, feel free to join me. And if you are looking for resources to start developing your game engine, well, I got you covered. If you go to my website, jeroserrano.com, and you click on links, that will own books. You click on links. If you click on the navigation bar, books, you will be taken to this page where I share with you all of the books that I use to develop my game engine. This is the first section right here. Will basically outline the books that can help you get started and the books that help me get started. So feel free to to check them out. And then if you scroll down, you will get a list of all of the books that I ended up using to develop my game engine. So there's no excuse not to develop your own game engine. It's not that hard as it may seem. All right, so you know what? Let me answer the second question. Why did I make my game engine an open source? Now, that is a really good question, right? Because, let me take some water first. Now, why did I do that, right? Why did I make it open source and not kept it closed source? Well, the reality is this, that I would have not been able to develop a game engine without the help of all of these engineers and developers and bloggers that took the time to write articles on how to use OpenGL, or people that wrote tutorials on how to render an entity, right? People on the Stack Overflow that took that time to answer questions from other people, right? I made use of all of these resources to learn, right? Um, and even now I'm learning from the members in my Discord server, right? So I felt that I needed to pay back to the community, to the indie game engine community, and share my game engine to the world for free. So if someone has a question or a doubt, they can just go and review the code that I wrote in my game engine, right? So I felt that I needed to pay, to give back to the community, because again, there's no way that you can develop a game engine, by yourself in isolation without the help from others, either directly or indirectly. In my case, I received a lot of help indirectly from all of these bloggers, engineers, developers that took the time to write articles. And myself, as someone who writes articles, who blogs, I can tell you that it is very time consuming to write an article, to write a tutorial, right? To go on YouTube and upload a video, right? It takes a long time to do all of that. It's not something that you can just turn on the camera and start teaching something. No, because you need to take the time to prepare what you're going to be talking about, then do the editing, and then do so many stuff that comes, whenever you want to upload a video on YouTube. So, to all of you guys who have written articles, created YouTube videos, etc., answer questions on Stack Overflow, thank you so much. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to develop my own game engine. And now, that's why I like to to go on live, do live streams, and write articles, a way, just as a way to give back to the community, so others can build a better game engine than my game engine, right? Because there's no excuse now. If you are lost, check out the code in my game engine. It's not the best, it's not the most optimal, but hey, it will give you an idea on how to develop your own game engine, and that's the key. Help each other rise to the top, so that we can develop something that we never thought was possible. All right, so enough talking. I'll answer another question in a few. All right, so let's see. The one that I want to talk about is that I want the loading, make load, call the init function instead. All right. And then what I want to do, and I think I should fix them first before I fix this one, is that play should call the update function. All right, so let's do that. Man, it's almost 12. Wow. All right, so let me close this down and let me make sure that I'm actually sharing, because last time, again, guys, I talked for about 10 minutes and I was not sharing the proper screen, so that kind of felt salty. So all right, so the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we do call the load. We got there. All right. Now all of the access to the scripting language is under my render path, with the editor path here. So let me look for gravity. Okay, here's gravity. And there should be one that says a lot of scripts. Okay, here. Okay, so let me go to my binding manager because that's the key right there. So my binding manager is a singleton, as you can tell. We have sure instance right here. That's the key. That is a singleton. So whenever it is called for the first time, we do initialize, right? But it is a singleton, so the next time it will not be initialized. So why don't we remove the init from here? And let's see. Hold on, no. The init, I'm sorry. The init will not initialize that. The init will initialize all of the compiler stuff that it needs, the virtual machine basically. Let me look for this function because this is the function. Whenever I call this, Gravity will call the init function in our script, which is this one right here, right? So let me check when do I call that, because that's the key right there. So here, all right. Okay, see, here's a problem. So I call the init gravity whenever I click on the play, but I don't want that. That's the key. I don't want this. Oh, hold on. I don't want this, but let me do this. All right. So, okay. So here I'm gonna call my init gravities. Okay. So call the init function in the script. All right. So let's see what happens when I do that. So if the load is successful, in this instance, I should see hello world, all right? And as this is, building, compiling. All right, oh, I was gonna answer another question. All right, so let's see. Let's see, we don't need to load up the whole scene, right? Because we're just doing this little test right here. All right, so let me just open up the script. Let me go to downloads. And then my script 2. All right. When I click load script, I should see hello world here. All right. And there you go. So we're good. So basically, okay, that is going right there. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to change the whole workflow for my game engine, and the workflow meaning how the game developer will use the game engine, right? So whenever he clicks on load, I want the init function to run, because I have some ideas on how we can make this workflow a lot nicer. All right. So now the next thing that we need to do is to all right. So let me bring this up right here. So this one is done. All right. Done. All right. So now let's play. Should call the update function, huh? All right. Now that seems to be, it's gonna be a little bit weird because update gravity. Who is calling this function right here? What the heck? Nobody is calling this guy? Huh. Okay. All right. Well, let's call it my manager. The problem is that this is going to be called only once, and there's no. Okay, this is not going to work. Um, who is calling that? Um, yep. I need to find a way of how to code this gravity function right here. Now, I do know, because I was working on that earlier, um, that during my update, my script by model. Let me bring this out really quick, and then I want to answer a question, all right? Um, This is something I need to think about how I'm going to do this. This is the update method, but this is only for the models. All right, I need to find a way of how to do this for the actual. The easiest way that I can think of, guys, honestly, the easiest one would be to simply call it here. But I wonder how would that affect my whole flow. This is the thing, right? Whenever you start integrating more and more system into your game engine, you need to take the time to understand the flow, right? The flow of data, and how things are going to be affected. Hold on. What I can do is probably in my scene manager do that. Where's my update? Look, I can put it here maybe. This may not be a bad idea to put it here. This is where everything else is being updated. So my game controller is updated. My game logic is being updated. My editing world entity is being updated. I can actually put the whole thing here. And that may not be a bad idea. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. So what I need to do, I need to copy this guy right here. Hold up, I don't even need this. So let me just remove this. And let me put him here. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna, but before I do that, I need to include the header. All right, include that h. All right, and then bind manager, update something, update gravity function. Boom, DT. All right, that makes a little bit more sense. All right, so let me answer another question, guys. Where and how did I learn to make a game engine, or where and how can you learn to make a game engine? Well, where I actually learned to make a game engine in my apartment. That was where I developed it most of the time. I also spent a lot of time at Starbucks. trying to learn how to develop a game engine. But how did I develop a game engine? Well, basically, guys, it was a bunch of trial and error. A lot of it. I actually had to throw away the first couple of versions of my game engine into the garbage can because it was useless. It was just a complete chaos. But from all of that, I learned how to develop a game engine. And actually, again, if you go to my website, guys, and I'm bringing up my website because I have made sure to provide as much resources as possible so that you can develop your own. But if you go to my website and you click actually home, if you scroll down, you will see about this video right here that shows how to become an indie game engine developer, right? And I also provide this link right here that provides basically what I talk about in the video, right? And I show that like the steps, step by step, what I had to do to develop my game engine, right? The first step was to learn linear algebra. Then I started learning C++, right? And then once I knew linear algebra, C++, I developed my own mathematics engine, right? Then I took the time to learn computer graphics, right? I became acquainted with the computer programming, the graphics pipeline, the rendering pipeline, shaders of the OpenGL API, etc. Then what I started doing was that I started to do a lot of very small OpenGL projects during the weekends. Right? I did a lot of them, and I was basically just soaking and absorbing all of that knowledge, right? When it came to computer graphics, doing a lot of projects helped me understand of computer graphics a lot, and also the API. After that, I started focusing more on how to develop a good architecture by learning the design patterns. Once I had a really good idea about that, then I was ready to develop my own rendering engine. But I was able to do that once I knew enough OpenGL, not to the point that I was an expert, but to the point that I knew what I needed to do, right? And that helped me develop a rendering engine. No, you cannot develop a rendering engine without mathematics engine, right? And then what I did was review Newton's laws of motion because this is the key that will help you develop your own physics and collision detection system. Then I had to learn some computational geometry, not a lot, but it would take some time. And once I knew that, then I was able to develop my physics engine. And that's basically how I did it, right? It took me a while to find the path, right? But you don't have to, right, reinvent the wheel. I'm sharing with you everything that you need to do. So this is basically how I did it. All right. So let me run this, and then I want to another question. I know it's already 12:09, and I do work tomorrow. So, all right. So let's see. How should you approach game engine development? All right. So the way that you should approach game engine development is basically um, think of it as a marathon. Um, just pace yourself, right? Don't rush through the development of your game engine. There is a lot to do, and you are not going to have a game engine in 6 months. You may, but it's not a game engine. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that most people would not call that a game engine. It takes a long time to develop a game engine, a really long time. There's so many components that you have to implement. So just pace yourself, realize and accept that this will be a very long project, and just show up every day, show up every single day. If you can only implement one little method or one small class into your game engine, do that, because the other thing that you need to do is create that habit of coding daily, right? And that habit is the key, right? if you don't have it, if you only code it today, then you code again next week, um, I don't. I honestly don't think you're gonna get too far, right? This is like just like when you go to the gym and you build muscles. The more you code, the better you're gonna get at it, and the faster you're gonna be able to develop. The faster you will develop your game engine, but you have to create that habit, right? And that habit cannot be created by you coding 12 hours a day all of a sudden. No, you have to slowly get into that mindset and slowly start thinking with that new engineering mind, right, of how to develop a system, how to develop an architecture as complex as a game engine. So what I would tell people is that start creating that habit of coding daily. You right, code. If you cannot code a whole system or component, that is okay because most of us cannot do that during the day. We will either we either have to go to school or we are like a full-time employees, and there's no way, right? So what you need to do is, um, if you don't have the time, then in 15 minutes just implement a function, or if you can implement a class. If not, even if you're good at it, implement the whole system. But just build that habit. That's the key. Build the habit and approach it as a marathon. And that's how I did it, right? I code every single day. I work on my game engine every single day. Sometimes I cannot code for an hour. Right now at the current stage of my life, the only time available that I have to work on my game engine is literally after 11 p.m. And I can only code for 1 hour because I do have a full-time job, right? Before I was able to work on my game engine, right before heading to work, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and work on it. Then during my lunch, then after work, after playing soccer, I would come and work on my game engine like from 7 p.m. like to 2 a.m. Right? But that was a different stage of my life. Now I have a different stage, and honestly, I can only work on my gaming engine at 11 p.m. And even sometimes I'm too tired to even do that, but I still, at least do something about, with the game engine. So, it takes a long time, guys, but that's how I should approach this. So, let's run this, right? Let me actually, just for the heck of it, let me load this because I do like to see the entities here. Uh, Scene. Let me load up the scene here, right? Now, what I'm gonna do, let me actually bring up my script because I haven't. All right, so here, the first thing that we should do here is when we load it, we should see hello world, and then we should see update. And this updating the world message that we see here should show up in this window constantly. All right, so let's hope that works. My script too. All right, so load the script. Boom, we see hello world right here. Now I'm gonna click on play and we should see, there you go. So that works. So now the game engine is, talking to the script, and the script is replying back, with this message. All right, so I think that's good. I know that you may be wondering why am I doing this. I will share with you more in the next live stream, because again, my whole workflow for my game engine has changed now that I have a scene editor, and also the scripting language. So I need to think some more. I have to do some more changes in order to accomplish what I envision. All right, guys. I hope this live stream was very helpful. If you like the live stream, please click the like button. It will really help my channel. I also hope that the questions that I answered today are helpful. Again, if you want to join our community of indie game engine developers, you're more than welcome to join my Discord server. That link is in the description below. And I'll see you guys again. Most likely, I'm gonna go live again on Thursday. Again, I'm gonna answer some more questions. And if you have some questions related to MG development, feel free to ask in the Discord server. If you don't want to ask to the whole community, you are more than welcome to send me a direct message in Discord. And once I see, I will respond. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being part of the live stream. Thank you, and